the better intersex films in terms of balancing production value with representation is the 2023 Canadian teenage drama film Fitting In. Written and directed by Molly McGlynn, based on her experiences with having Mayer-Rokitansky-Creutzfeldt-Hauser syndrome, MRKH.
It's named after the four men, the doctors who discovered it.
A rare genetic disorder that affects the development of the female reproductive system, characterized by the absence or underdeveloped uterus, vagina, and cervix, according to penmedicine.org. The title is a pun, referencing both the teenage protagonist's struggle to fit in at high school and the efforts to physically fit a penis into her vagina. Her struggles are, while not officially considered intersex by the medical establishment and by the intersex exclusionists, is similar enough to those faced by officially intersex people that it can be considered a distinction without a difference and is commonly accepted by intersex inclusionists under a general umbrella of intersex identity. The character herself, and presumably McGuinn, identifies with the intersex community but feels awkward joining a queer support group, not feeling welcome. The controversy over whether or not her condition counts is represented in the film, with people on the internet arguing about it, and it does not fall down firmly one way or the other.
MRKH is an intersex condition because of the deviated
No,
genitalia.
MRKH syndrome wouldn't be classified as a form of intersex because it's a condition
But how
of
can we all
incomplete
be
female
free from
development.
harmful...
For the exclusionists out there who would not consider her an intersex character, there is at least a traditionally intersex love interest in the film, a non-binary person with androgen insensitivity syndrome, the same condition of Sadako from The Ring and Katie Bird from Cattywampus. So you can consider Fitting In an intersex film in the traditional sense. Personally, I think it's a good idea to operate from a position of inclusivity. Not everyone with MRKH identifies as intersex, and those people might well be considered dyadic, but able to relate to intersex people. But if someone with MRKH relates so strongly that they consider themselves effectively intersex, why not count them as such? It's already arbitrary as a social distinction. As far as I'm concerned, if she considers her experiences closer to intersex experiences than dyadic experiences, and identifies as part of the group, then she's part of the group. We accept her, one of us, one of us. We accept her, one of us, one of us. Goo-doo-da-da-doo-doo-da-da. That'll make more sense when I cover the freak show representation. After opening with quotes from The Second Sex and Jennifer's Body to let you know you're in for an edgy feminist teen girl movie, we're introduced to Lindy, played by Maddie Ziegler, a celebrity dancer, probably serving as the main draw for the teenage girl crowd.
I feel so awkward. I feel like I'm dancing weird.
Lindy is a standard 16-year-old girl who can't wait to have sex. She fantasizes about having sex with a boy. Her single mother casually watches porn in the kitchen for research. She's a therapist. It makes just as much sense in context. And her best friend Vivian boasts about having a lot of sex. She is ready and rearing to go, but her mother is concerned because Lindy has yet to get her period, so she goes to her gynecologist, a man with very poor bedside manner. Similar to Ginger Snaps, there is a sexual health PSA disguised as a scene about a girl feeling awkward with a medical professional. I actually didn't realize that sexually active meant anything other than PIV sex. The more you know.
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Well, as long as the sexual things you are doing include oral sex, i.e. blowjobs, giving head, going down on, eating out, anal play, anal sex, manual sex, i.e. giving and receiving handjobs, fingering someone, or being fingered yourself, amongst other things, then you are, in fact, sexually active. Just FYI.
Her gynecologist diagnoses her with MRKH syndrome, and her plans for sexual exploration are completely derailed. In order to widen her vaginal opening, she must regularly dilate with medical dildos. This is a common experience for intersex people assigned female, and is shared by the classically intersex protagonist of Being Impossible. So it's a good illustration of how MRKH can fit under the intersex umbrella. It's also something that I and a lot of other trans women experience as a part of the post-vaginoplasty exercises to get the vaginal muscles in working order. So I found it a good, compelling representation. One issue I have, that is also a criticism I have of Being Impossible, is that she only very lightly rubs lubricant on the dilator. Always err on the side of too much lube. Goop that stuff on. Friction is the enemy. After a while of dealing with this crap, her nurse recommends she join a local LGBT plus support group. She tries to, but chickens out when starting to explain MRKH. However, she attracts the attention of Jax, a non-binary intersex person, played by transmasculine, non-binary intersex actor Key Griffin, who reaches out to her. Jax is a YouTube activist who makes videos about being intersex, and Lindy binge-watches them and reads internet arguments over whether or not MRKH counts as being intersex. The film doesn't come down solidly one way or the other, only represents Lindy relating to the intersex label, while also featuring Jax as a person with androgen insensitivity syndrome. Either way, the film ends up providing intersex representation. In the full inclusionist interpretation, there are 2 intersex characters. The 2 of them get close and start dating, until a disastrous party where Lindy gets embarrassed over being seen with them and perceived as queer in public. Jax notices and breaks up with her. Upset, she gets drunk and ends up venting to a random guy, which backfires when he gossips to everyone about her weird vagina. It culminates in a big blow-up at school. Vivian is willing to take the fall by claiming that Lindy was talking about her, that Vivian is the one with MRKH syndrome, and also reveals to her that she was always lying about being sexually experienced. She's never had sex, so no one can call her on that lie. Lindy appreciates the gesture, but comes out and says she doesn't care anymore.
Is like so empowering, especially to have that moment with everything that leads up to it. All of the uncertainty, all of the discomfort, all of the sadness and heartbreak. I think that moment is like a huge breakthrough for her, and I wish I had the courage to do something like that in my real life.
She then texts Jax to apologize. They skinny dip together, apparently resuming their relationship. Lindy gets a new gynecologist, a woman who is much more empathetic than the first guy. While he had encouraged her to pursue surgery, the woman tells her it isn't necessary. It shouldn't be about her conforming to the idea of what an archetypal man wants in PIV sex. It should be about her. Lindy decides not to pursue surgery after all. In the opening image, Lindy fantasized about having sex with a man, picturing a sexual encounter with a man in the focus. In the closing image, she masturbates without thinking about a man, now valuing her sexual pleasure without the social component. It ends on this feminist note. Fitting in feels like it should be a new cult classic, but unfortunately it seems to have gone under the radar. People are mostly finding it through being fans of Maddie Ziegler. It's too bad because it is great representation and a good feminist film. Whether or not the viewer counts Lindy as intersex, the fact that Lindy herself identifies with the label makes it a coming-of-age story about someone with an intersex identity. Jax is indisputably intersex, and the fact that they're a compelling love interest without any fetishization or villainization, like Sadako, is a major step up in representation. They're cool for being an outspoken activist and YouTuber, which makes them attractive socially as well as physically.
They're super hot and cool as shit too.
God, like, if I was 17 and I knew myself as well as Jax, I feel like I would be way further in, like, my career, my life, like... So I feel like that's really inspirational for me, and it definitely makes me want to be that person. And I feel like I have actually started to make more steps towards being that person in my own life through playing Jax.
Through Jax's videos, we get a rundown on the concept of being intersex. Though Jax has a traumatic past with coerced surgery, we don't dwell in trauma like we do in films like Being Impossible, Both, and Bowl. I think it's important to have an optimistic tone, at least sometimes. By the way, shout out to the online Intersex Book Club for recommending this film to me, as well as showing me how I could find more intersex representation in films that depict specific conditions that filmmakers don't necessarily frame as intersex. In terms of the metaphor where intersex film representation is comparable to the MCU, that's like giving me access to all the Disney Plus tie-in shows. Suddenly I've got much more media to work with. including the Freaks' One of Us chant.
We accept a one of us. We accept a one of us. Gooba gobble, gooba gobble.
I'll include a link to their Tumblr page in the description, as well as where to find the movie. It is currently accessible through Hoopla with a library card, and the DVD can be purchased through Amazon. Be sure to like and subscribe, and consider donating to me on Patreon. You donate to Jax, right?